So welcome to the special topic webinar with ATLAS.ti on the network view function. And I actually will tell you a bit later why it correctly is called network views and not, as the title indicates, networks. You already discovered the question pane, or a few of you, so please feel free to write questions while you have them, while they pop up while I'm talking. I will keep the question pane in focus, but I will kind of stop where there are some natural breaks then to review the question and get back to you. So I may not answer immediately, but I will break in between to review these questions. So what are we going to talk about today? At least what's my plan? I will introduce you to the basic concepts, some things you need to know, some vocabulary if you want to work with network views and ATLAS.ti. Then we will go over into the software and I'll show you actually how to link objects and how this works and how to create new relations so you can create the unique networks that are necessary for your kind of research. And hyperlinks are special links in networks. These are links between two quotations. We can do them in networks, but you can also create them while directly working with your data. So I will show that as well. And the last issue, depending also how many questions I get, so if you're not running out of time, I will show you the analytical capabilities of the network view function that have become available with version 7. So maybe can you write me a short feedback if somebody is still on version 6, so I can actually point out what the differences are, also in terms of linking. Most of the issues are still the same and the mouse clicks are still the same, but especially with regard to that last point, that's not possible in version 6. So please let me know if any one of you is still working with version 6. Then I start with the basic concept. So here you see an example network view that is based on the sample project that comes when you install ATLAS 7, the Children and Happiness project. That's the one we're going to work with today as well. So what you see here is some codes. This is a memo. These are some notes for your documents called primary documents in ATLAS. And then you see some objects are linked with a named relation. And some objects are just linked here with a gray line or here with a black line. And I will say some more about that. So we have named relations and we also have unnamed relations. And in addition to the named and unnamed relations, we have directed and non-directed links. So the lines here are the links, and what you see here is argue or difference between. These are the relations. They can be directed as is argue, or is reason for, is consequence of, and so on. So it's a clear direction you can define. And the vocabulary you need to remember is transitive. That's something you need to know when you create your own relation. What you see in this image is these are not the standard relations that come with ATLAS. So ATLAS does offer a kind of a set of relations already when you install the software, but these are relations that I have created. And you see also that the lines can be red or blue or green, thicker and thinner, and that's all what you can define and what in terms of what you want to express. So we have the directed and the non-directed symmetric relations. They have two arrows at both sides. Yeah, so you can't determine a direction like is associated with, for example. That's one of the standard relations. The next issue that I've already mentioned is named and the named links and the one without a name, which ATLAS also refers to as strong and weak links. Now the weak links are the ones without a name, and the strong links are the ones that have a name. And this is possible, as you see here, between two codes. And code memo, that's just weak link relations. So here we have another example. We have strong links between two quotations. You can say that they support each other, they discuss each other, they contradict each other, they justify, one statement justifies the other, and so on, or also between different media types. Yeah, we have a video quotation here and a text quotation. So the strong links between quotations, these are actually the hyperlinks. Yeah, so it's a different word for that. And we see some other weak links here. We can display the quotations that belong to a document, or also that quotation that's coded by a certain code. So you can also add those to a network. Now here we see another example of that. We have one code here with I think 9 quotations, and you can visualize that in a network view. So this is something you have created while you coded, but you can visualize everything what you do. So basically your entire project, your entire hermeneutic unit is a network. And that's why these images are network views. You only have a short view, or like a especially created view out of that large network that you create from your data. So, some more words. I want to already introduce the word links. So the lines are basically the links, and in order for you to clearly express the nature of the relationship between two objects, between two codes, or between two quotations, you can insert a relation, and you can name that relation. So the name is called relation, and in ATLAS, the window where you create or modify existing relations is called relation editor. Here you see the standard relations that already come when you install ATLAS.ti. So we have is associated with, is part of, is cause of, contradicts, is a no name, is property of. What you also see in this table is that we have different labels for each of these relations. Yeah, label 1, label 2, and then the menu label here actually. That's usually displayed. But you can also switch displaying the entire name, or just displaying label 1, or for all relations displaying label 2. So these are alternative ways of displaying the relation, and you can play with that. I mean, the standard here is to just, for label 1 is to use some symbols you have on your keyboard, for label 2 to use a letter that comes from network theory. But you are free to change that for your own purposes. So I sometimes prefer for label 2 to use German, for example. So I have the relation name is English if the data is English, or it's German if it's German data in my case, and label 2 is English in case I have an English presentation, and label or label 1. I mean, you have to be consistent. And maybe you don't want to see anything at some point, you want to just hide the relation, then you just choose nothing for a particular label. Here you can also see the standard width and the standard color. And I've only told you about 2 of these. I told you about symmetric, non-directed, and transitive directed. Transitive, by the way, you can remember by the word. Trains, transport, transit, that all goes into one particular direction. So that's the directed link. Here we have an asymmetric one. Well, I can explain it to you what it does in ATLAS, but I think you have enough to remember anyway. And if you remember directed and non-directed, the asymmetric one is a special form of basically a mixture of both. It's displayed like a symmetric. It's displayed like a transitive relation, but behaves like a symmetric one. It doesn't force a hierarchy in the data as transitive relations would do. Yeah, so that's the difference between, or the kind of the mixed form between transitive and symmetric. Do you have any questions so far? Apart from the question how this is now done in ATLAS, which I will show next. Don't see any question come up, so I switch to Atlas, and I have here a project that has no links at all. Yeah, it's a coded project, but it does, yeah, I kind of cleared out the code families here, so we have a bit of a reduced project, so actually can hide that as well. So we have the code list here, and you see the density is 0 for all codes. And in case you don't work with this view, I kind of find this good to work with if you code, because it saves space on screen. The standard view is the detailed view, and here you see the density and groundedness count in a special column. And I only use this view if I need to see the author or creation modification date. So that single column view saves a bit of space on your screen, which is always critical. So let me just select some codes here. And I choose code of different colors on purpose. So you see how they look like. Oh, somebody actually, we were at a conference in Berlin last weekend, the Berliner method meeting, and somebody was hiding my toolbars here. So I can now, within the toolbars of the code manager, select the network view for these codes, and they're not connected. Yeah, none of the codes is connected. But this is a quick and easy way to bring them in by selecting them from the code manager. And you also see that the colors that the user-defined colors also show up in network views. Mind the flickering in the background. I hope it's not as strong as it's for me. It's related to the recording of the session. That's why it's flickering in the background. So sorry about that. So maybe I can just make this very big and we have less flickering. Yes. So you can freely move these codes around here, and you don't see my question pane, but I have to move it around so I can see something here. So you can move them freely. You can also kind of grab each of these objects here and resize if you want to have it on by line. The numbers, I leave them now here. These are the groundedness counts and the density count. You can also hide them. I won't go through all the display options here. That's something you can play around with yourself, but just pointing out the most important ones. Yeah, what the groundedness and density count is the extended code label. If you don't want that, you can hide it. But I leave it now because then you can also see what's happening to the density count once I start linking. So do you see this red dot once I click on the code? And you can just drag that red dot to another code. And once you've done that, so I release the left mouse button, I can choose a relation. You see I have already some more relations than I showed you in the PowerPoint. These are the ones, the standard relations plus the ones I've created already for this project. So I take is associated with, maybe just move that code also next to the other one. So it's a non-directed one with 2 arrows to both sides. So I now link that one to this code and say is part of, this is a directed relation. And if I want to actually change it, turn it around because it's the wrong way, I can flip the link. So once I've linked 2 objects to each other, I can right-click directly on the relation name, and I have certain options. I can also now describe that particular link between the 2 codes, and then it gets a comment saved externally. So So now you see, as all other objects in Atlas, all commented objects have this tilde sign behind. So you can immediately see whether you have commented a link or not. Let me link that one as well here. Now I take the difference between, now you see the red line. Yeah, so you see that we have thinner and thicker ones, and I think the argue one is green. Oh, now I used also mentioned, but I wanted to take the argue one. You can also change the relation by right-clicking. Yeah, so you see this. It's also a black one, but a bit thicker. So now you have seen how you link objects, and that's actually quite easy, as you see. If you want to link more than one code, let me cut some of these links again. Also cut that one here. So I can kind of draw a frame around these, or I can, what I just did now, click on the Control key to highlight these three codes all at once. I can get now the linking lines here from the toolbar, and I can link these three codes to one. Yeah, so you don't have to always link one code to each other, but you can also link multiple codes. So Susanne has the question, when you cut a link, does that mean it is deleted forever or it's just hidden? No, that's then deleted forever. So if I cut it, then these two codes are not linked anymore. If you want to actually don't want an object anymore in your particular network view, if you right click, you have two options here. And you shouldn't, hopefully not mix this up anymore. In version 6, it was we had the two options, remove from view, and we had the option delete node. These objects in a network view are all called nodes. But now actually Atlas can specify whether it's a memo node or a code node or PD node, whatever, and it does tell you. If I click delete now here, it would delete the entire code in my entire project. Yeah, if you click on delete, you will always be warned. But you know, as it is sometimes, we don't read it and we just click yes, and then that code is deleted. So that you should be careful with. If you want to get rid of something in a network view, just go remove from view. You can also hit the delete key on your keyboard. That's the same as remove from view. So now it's no longer here. But as soon as I would import that code again, and I can do it via drag drop. Now I have to remember which one it was. Now we see it flickering again. That was the blue one. Yeah. So if I now import that blue one here again, so you see the line is immediately there. So Atlas does save the linkages you make immediately. I don't have to even save that network view particularly. Of course, I have to click on the save ATLAS.ti-July file here, for example, on the disk symbol here. So it's permanently saved. But as soon as you create the linkages, then these linkages are stored. And of course, you lose them again if you don't save your project, but I guess that should be clear. So I can drag drop a code into this network view, but I can also drag drop other objects. Yeah, I can open the memo manager, for example, and drag drop a memo in here. I can drag drop basically from all managers, but I show you that you can also drag drop from the margin area. So you can drag drop quotations in here. If there would be a memo, I don't have one, I don't see one here in the margin area right now, but I can also drag drop codes, and you see immediately this code knows that this quotation is coded with that code. So we have a weak link relation here. And the effects of parenting, maybe get that one here. That's a different effects of parenting code. But as soon as it realizes that the quotations are in here, it will create, excuse me, the linkage. So you can also, now I do this for this code here, I have only 2 quotations linked with it. I can also import quotation neighbors. So neighbors are objects that are directly linked. Yeah, the code neighbor now for this code would be the narcissistic culture, because it's a directly linked code. There's no memo here on the code, but I can import the quotations. And what you see as well, that we have that quotation is coded with both that code effects of parenting and evaluation negative. Yeah, so immediately these weak link relations are drawn as soon as Atlas realizes that it's an object I am linked to, or the object realizes that it's in the network. Yeah, so now we have a number of named relation in here, but also some weak link relations. I can link this memo now here to the code, for example. I can also link memos to quotations. Now that's all works in the same way. So once you know how linking works, you can link all objects to each other. What I want to show you here is also the linkages between 2 quotations. Now we get a list again of relations, for example, discusses. Yeah, because this is now a linkages between 2 quotations, and this is a strong link relation again. So now we have created these strong link relations between 2 data segments. So this is a hyperlink, and between 2 codes, and a number of weak link relations here as well. The quotation here can be shown at different levels of verbosity. So you can have only the ID if you only want the reference where it's coming from, but you can also display the full text. And then if you want to resize, if the quotations are not too long, if you don't have too many in your network, it may work, but you can easily see that kind of fills up your network quite quickly if you enter too many data directly into a network view. But what you also can do is access the data behind each object. And now we can list all of these 17 quotations linked to that code, and we can view it in context. I don't want to do this now because but you know this list of quotations, as you double click on a code in the code manager, if I now click on a quotation, it will just directly lead me to the context of that quotation. Let me the sources of happiness. Let me bring in another code where I know we have a video quotation linked to it, and I can also show you then you can directly play the video also from a network view. From the nodes menu, as I mentioned before, all objects within a network view are called nodes. So I can also import nodes via the menu. And now you see all the objects that I can import. It can be codes, code families, memos, memo families, networks, other networks, basically just as placeholders. Yeah, if that network if you get scrambled for space, then maybe you do continue the network in another one, and then you can symbolize that just with the network view icon, and then you can continue from there. We can have documents in here. We will see that when I show the analytic functions. You can also visualize primary document families and quotations. We have seen that already. So the sources of happiness, that one has video quotations linked. So I import that. And hopefully this now works with the video recording and everything. So I have list quotations. I would see here did I throw out my video out of that one? I thought I was sure. Oh, this project doesn't have videos. Sorry about that, because I shortened this version. I can, yeah, what it does, if it is linked to a video, the video window pops up here in the network, and it just plays that video quotation. When we get into the other project, when I show you the analysis function, I can show you there, because the video is still included in that one. Yeah, so the point was that we can always access the data from network view. So this is not just a graphical display, it also has the data behind it, also the memo content, for example. If I double click on memo, you can read the memo content here as well. So what I need to show you next is how to create relations. You can do this while you work, might be the most natural place to do. If you want to link two objects, or you want to change a relation to something that's not there, because you have an idea now how this might be related, you can, from this menu, also open the relation editor. And we have to kind of twiddle it a bit, make it a bit bigger, to see these menus here, file and edit. So here now you see all the relations, and you can, now you see all how they are defined. You can modify existing relations, or now create a new one. So that for creating a new relation, you click on Edit New Relation, and all the fields are empty. You have to define an ID. It has to be unique. That shouldn't exist here in the list yet. It doesn't have to be uppercase, but yeah, just for the sake of tradition, you could continue to do that. And do we have a reason for, or do we have no consequence? So let's do a consequence relation. So I immediately go to the menu text, it's consequence of. And now for label 2, I write it in German. You can see it's very similar. It's consequence von, that would be the German. And now for label 1, well, you could use some symbols that you have on your keyboard. You can't select special symbols somewhere else. You have to work with what you have on your keyboard, or you just leave it blank if you don't want to enter anything here for label 1. So I make this a bit bigger now and give it a different color. You can also play with the width of the relation, that you then, for example, as label 1, just don't use any sign, and then you have a weak link, you make it only 1 point, and then the stronger one 3 points, and 6 points for a very strong link, and then you don't display the relation, you just let the thickness of the line speak. So these are options you can play with. Its consequence of is a transitive relation. It's directed. We can just say this is a consequence of something else. If you want, you can have also a dashed line, if that's what you like. So I say OK, and now you see it has applied immediately. Yeah, we have here our consequence of, and we have the thick line in orange color. So now let me show you the label. I now use the manual label, that's the default. Label 2 would be here the German name, and for the default relations it's a letter or short version here. And for label 1, I remember what I created here, and then you have some other symbols here as well. So if you don't have so much room, or you prefer symbols and icons, that's maybe something you want to choose. Let me go back to the menu label so that we have the text here we can talk about. If you want to create relations without directly working on a network, under links you have the relation editor. Also under the network view menu under the main menu, you find the relation editor. And you see we have two relation editors. Technically, the mouse clicks are the same for both of these. We have the code relations and the hyperlink relations. I can open up the hyperlink relation manager. You see that looks exactly the same as before, but we have a different content here. And based on the fact if you want to link on the data level, linking text passages to each other because the respondent contradicts him or herself directly within an interview, tells you something at the beginning in the interview and something different in the middle, you could then link these data segments as being contradicting each other, or it's a cross-respondence, or you have respondents justifying each other, or one explains the other, or you have an image that maybe people used to talk about, or that you used in an interview, and people explain about that picture, that image, or a video sequence they are talking about, or something. Yeah? So that you can also link across different data types. And you see you need different types of relation for that. Yeah, so that's basically the second set of relation that Atlas offers you for this particular type of linking. Then, yeah, I was just thinking what else I need to show you about the network views. Well, like with any graphic program, you have alignment tools where you can make it look nice. So it's top aligned, bottom aligned, and so on. You can also you change the color display if you don't want the user-defined color. Default is gray. Or you can also have colored background as density, but it's a mixture of the ground and the density. I don't find it that useful because it's neither, it's not by either density or groundedness. It's a kind of mixture of the two. But we have the option here, user-defined color, and then using it as label. Where's that? Yeah. So that's another display which you may want to use. Your user-defined labels are here only. That the labels use the color and not the background. Let me switch back to footnotes. And what I want to show next is how you actually export this network view to either PowerPoint or your Word document, any report that you are creating. So you can export the network view to as graphic file. So I don't go through all the procedure. I am sure you're familiar with that. You have different formats available and that you can save the network in. What I want to quickly show is the option copy to clipboard. Here you can either select parts of your network view or you export everything. So if I now say copy all notes, it's just basically you saw a short blinking. That was now not the video recording, and it now put the network onto your clipboard. And if you open Word, just do a new document. Then if I just paste it, I just click Ctrl-V, then I just get the network as text. And that's what we don't want. We want the network as image. And for that, well, this is a German word, but in English it's paste. And then you have paste special in English. So you should not just simply paste it, you need to use a paste special option. If you have an older version of Windows, it's under Edit and then Paste Special. So it's under the Edit menu up here. So then if you use the Paste Special option, the first option is the rich text version, and that's what you get if you paste it immediately. So take the the device-independent bitmap, that usually gives you the best quality. So the English is device-independent bitmap, and whatever that is in your language. And now we get the network view here in our Word document. You can still resize it, make it smaller or larger, or you can also paste it into a graphic program if you want to add further arrows, circles, and so on, or use word art to do that. And so that's how you get your network view per copy and paste into a different application. This is actually the poster guideline I just prepared for the ATLAS conference. So in case you don't know, in September 12 to 14, we held our first ATLAS user conference in Berlin. And if you're too far away to participate, we will actually record selected sessions and will make it available online after the conference. So then you can also have a virtual participation. But you're still, of course, welcome. Check our website for the presentations that will be held and registration and so on. So it's September 12 to 14. So that was a bit of the side track. So now let me go back to the presentation, PowerPoint presentation, my own, and show you some basics on hyperlinks. Yeah, so codes do a particular thing. They collect instances that are similar, but with hyperlinks you can express things that are different on the data level. So that's a different type of thinking and different type of analytical work that ATLAS allows you to do. So here we see a set of hyperlink relations, and we have seen also the verbosity part. This shows full quotations. What you need to know about hyperlinks is that we can create stars and chains. So this is a chain. So where the start anchor leads to a target, and then the target becomes the starting point again and leads to a new target. And so it continues. If you create a star, then the starting point remains the same, and then you link to a number of different objects. So if ATLAS asks you whether you want to continue with a star or with a chain, then you know what it means. If you click star, then it always it sticks with the starting point and it's not changing it. And you can create hyperlinks, as I've already shown you in the network view, but you can also do it just right away on the data. And this is what I want to show you next. Then I close this network view now. ATLAS is going to ask me whether I want to save it. As we've seen before, the linkages are saved straight away. But if you want to save that particular image, the way we kind of position the codes and the memos and whatever we have in there, then we can save the network view. And I just let that in our example and give that a name. All saved network views you do find here under that network view symbol, and if I open it, it pops up immediately or the same view as we had before. Yeah, but if you remember that one here in the statistic culture, the linkages are still there. Yeah, if I go to the code manager and look for my code here, see now 3 linkages. If I open up the network view on that code, you see it immediately it shows that the objects that are linked to that code, but in a different view than we had before. So keep that in mind, that you don't always have to save everything that you link, because otherwise you have a lot of network views here that don't mean anything. So only save those that you want to continue to work on. Turkey asked me what are the numbers in this code squares, and I think you Yeah, you're referring to those numbers. The groundedness and density count. Yeah, so this code is used 7 times. So if I list quotations, these are the 7 quotations that are linked. The set that I've used this code for coding before, and the 3 is the number of objects this is linked to. Yeah, so this code is linked to 3 other codes, and it's only counting the links to other codes. Yeah, whether we have linked 3 memos to it, it doesn't count. It only counts the links to other codes. So and I don't want to save this view now because I've only just reviewing the linkages, so I set discard changes so I don't save this one. So what I want to show you now is how to create hyperlinks, not on the network view level, but on the data level. I stay within that one document for now. Select the option, create a link source. So I right-clicked on that quotation boundary. I create link source. So now I move further down to the document, activate a quotation. So you can either right-click on that quotation boundary or right-click here. Yeah, so it may be a bit easier to hit. So now I say target, and I say criticizes, for example. These are blog posts, so maybe the one respondent criticizes the other. So now you see here I can continue to a star, a chain, or quit. So let's do a star, maybe because another respondent supports that statement of the other person. So I say create link target again, and I said supports. Yeah, do we have supports? Yes. Yeah, and also at this point in time, I could also create a new relation if there is none that suits. So now I quit linking. So you see here the hyperlinks that are in here, and I can now open the network view also here on the hyperlink, and it pops up all the possible relations like that big, and I take out the verbosity. It's too much now, so I just take the name. So now we have, you see we have the linkages between that as a supporting statement, and that statement criticizes the other one. And actually it should be that way around. Yeah, so that is our starting point here, and that statement supports it and that statement criticizes it. And or if you open up a network, it will immediately bring up all the linked the codes that already exist, and then you can either remove it from view if you don't want that, or you immediately have the full picture. We have another question. Who defines the strengths of relation? Is it me or is it Atlas? Atlas doesn't do anything here in terms of interpreting the data. It's you. Yeah, you have to decide whether it's a strong or weak relation. You have to read the data behind it and then decide what type of relation it is and how these codes or also quotations are linked to each other. So the software doesn't do any interpretation in terms of how many codes occur or how dense or how many overlaps there is or whatever. Yeah. So the interpretation is up to you. The network view, in that sense, is a visualization of what you find based on your analysis in your data. But it is, in that sense, even though Atlas doesn't define anything, it does have an analytical component in addition to what I will show you towards the end. That that just by bringing data onto this visual space, and you move things around, and you'll be able, you print it out and you take the network view and talk with your supervisor, talk with a colleague, you try to explain your relations, and something else is happening in your way of thinking about the data, and it helps you to understand what's actually going on. So it gives you that analytic component as well, because it brings you on a different level of analysis, but still being in the context of your data, as I've shown you can always access the data behind it. So Katrin is asking, how do you change the mode transitivity, etc., if the nodes, and what does it actually mean if I choose the wrong mode? So far it is only aligned with a label, so where does it play a role to choose asymmetric or other modes? I'm Ferdinand, replacing Katrin as she joined class last week. Okay, so Ferdinand behind Katrin's name. Again, you could have this as a symmetric relation, even criticizes in terms of interpretation would be a transitive relation. In that sense, it doesn't really matter here for hyperlink relations. For code-code relation, it does matter at particular spaces in the program. I don't want to have this view. If I go and display the tree, well, let's see whether no, I think I have to go to the I go to the Object Explorer. Oh, that's interesting. So hopefully this works now. The transitive relation, they force a hierarchy. It doesn't indent anything right now. And I'm a bit, usually it should look differently. That's why I'm a bit puzzled right now. But I have kind of a version right now installed that doesn't really exist. And let me try this just on this one code here. And there is an option to display the code tree just on that particular code. So now it does it in the right way, almost. I have to explain that without you being able, you will see it differently on your computer, I hope. If now we have only directed relations here, and so we have a hierarchical display, basically just like in your tree display here, and they are right underneath each other. And let me change one of these now to is associated with. If no, I want to change the relation to is associated with, and then let me also change this one so we have two to this difference between. Both of these are symmetric relations. So if I now open the tree under miscellaneous, should look, it doesn't look different because I'm missing something here in my display. Show use images indent, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Normally, if it's this symmetric relations, then it will repeat each other. Yeah, and with the asymmetric relations as well, they look like transitive relation in a network view, but if we have the hierarchical display or the tree display, it's not purely hierarchical, only for transitive relations. For symmetric and asymmetric one, we would actually get a repetition here because they refer to each other. So we don't have like a clear-cut tree. Yeah, Atlas doesn't really have a tree display, but that's again a different discussion. We don't actually have time to go into right now. So sorry I cannot show you, and I just have to follow up, but I have a version Z7.093, which is not actually existing at this particular moment in time. So these hierarchies are formed by the nodes I define. I got the point, I think. In a sense, yes, and sorry that I could not show you properly, but what I can tell you also here, if you have transitive relations, you can use semantic operators. Yeah, if you have a clearly down and up and sibling, and that's you define by transitive relations in a network view. So you can only use these three operators in the query tool if you have defined relations between codes in that manner. And these operators don't have any effect if you work with symmetric or asymmetric relations. So that's the other effect beyond like the displaying with two arrows and with one arrow. One other quick thing I want to show you is linkages across. So I actually open up two documents side by side, and that could also be an image or could be a video or something. And if you view documents side by side and you see, oh well, this is related to another one, that does take a bit of. Now it's doing. Actually, I need to change the mouse pointer, and then you can drag across. Difficult to do with the mouse flickering. So now, and it's not my day today. You should be able to link across doing that. See when I've used my mouse pad whether it works then. No, the mouse pointer needs to change when I drag. Now it does. So now it has the stop sign, and if I move over here to this quotation, now I get the option discusses or whatever, and I have these two linked and can double click and I can jump directly to the linked relations and so on. Yeah, so this is very briefly, and also how you can link while you work directly with the data, also utilizing this side-by-side view in ATLAS 7. So get rid of that second document again. So now I want to show you as the last issue the analytical capabilities of the network view function that are there now because filter settings apply in version 7. And for this I need to switch projects. Here we have already lots of links and lots of networks. Yeah, you can review all these networks. This is a sample project that you find under Help Quick Tool Stage 2. That's what I'm opening now. You can also view all the linkages you have created via the code link or hyperlink manager. Yeah, you can also search for all these different between relations or argue relation, whatever. So you can use that also to filter some of your relations in here. You can also change relations here, write comments on your relation. So that's another view for all your relations that you can search and comment and change and modify or delete as well. And if I now open I have here with the block data, we have always the blog post of those who are parents, so writers on a particular topic who are parents, who are non-parents. And if I add and want to compare what parents and non-parents are saying, let me just create a new network view. New example. And I add, for example, the one who don't have children. And now I want to see what code relates, what kind of issues they have mentioned. And if I don't set filters, so I can now import all co-occurring codes. And if you're familiar with the analysis tool, that's basically the same what the co-occurrence explorer does, or the co-occurrence table, but on a visual level. But if I now import all co-occurring codes, you're going to have a pretty picture, very colorful. It's going to take a while because it's now querying all the codes. See, it's working. And well, we have lots of codes in here now. It's not very meaningful. Yeah, and that goes here, yeah, further down and down and down and down. That's not very useful. So I close that again. Discard changes. Yeah. So I create another one where I now set filters, for example, 2. So I use the have children code again, but now make the side panel visible with all my families. And I have an example in here for all the reasons for having children or not having children. So if I now set this as global filter, then all the other codes are not visible currently. And if I now import co-occurring codes, then it only imports those that are now in my list. So I get an immediate picture, what are the reasons parents have said for having children or for not having children. Yeah, and I've linked these before. Normally the links are not automatically in here, but now I get all those codes, can distribute them equally in the network view, and by color I see what the reasons are for not having children. Maybe I can then sort them by color, and I can do the same for types people, and that's my don't have children code. And if I now import the co-occurring ones, yeah, you see it's calculating what of these codes are co-occurring with the code that for all block entries that don't have children. And I lay them out again. So I have now 2 networks, and then you can compare actually by content which codes occur in that one network that doesn't occur in the other network, and then I have kind of a visual analysis on that level, yeah, including the ability to question or query the data behind it. So that's one option that is now feasible to use. We had the co-occurring option also in version 6, but as we could not work with filters, that wasn't very meaningful. And we could do the same on the document level. We have a block here from what's called Belkin parenting block, and we have a New York Times block. So I mark 2 of these documents. And now we can do that. I think it's requiring me to do something here somewhere. That's a network meeting. undo that. There's a message somewhere which I don't see right now. So maybe now I can. Because that's something that also can happen for you. Sometimes ATLAS requires you to click yes or no somewhere, and that window is hidden behind all the other windows, and then you kind of don't realize why something doesn't work. So now I added these two documents here, and we have now the import neighbor option, which is now differentiated by objects. We have seen that before with importing quotations, and now we can import the codes, and now only the ones that are in our filter, and we do that for the one block and the other as well. You see immediately which codes occur for the one and the other document. Oh, it's not laying it out to the window now. So now we get all these weak link relations. The gray ones we have seen in the first network. And then by moving things around a bit, you can then see which codes apply. Maybe also best if you kind of position it like that. That means now we have to tease it out of it. But you can see that some codes occur in the New York Times blog that doesn't occur in the Belkin Parented blog. Some codes you can find in both. So these kind of queries answer question, does a code occur in a particular document, and you can do case-based comparison. That's the input I wanted to give, so I'm kind of overrunning a few minutes by now. I don't see any new questions, but please feel welcome now to ask anything about anything that I have presented so far, or any other question that you may have. And I'll wait for a bit, or you can, we're not that many people. If you raise your hand, I can also open your microphone and you can directly talk to me if you don't want to write down your question, because it always takes a while. Yeah, I have one more question here. Is there any kind of printed manual at this time? Well, there is a handout which I think the training center always does send it after the session. There's a handout on network views just for this session, and of course all of this is explained in the manual. There's a whole chapter on working with networks and also on the analytical function of networks. So you do find it in the printed version of the manual, but you also find it here under ATLAS help. And for example, in network analytics, yeah, you find here main concept and analytical functions. Yeah, import node neighbors, and that's what I've been showing you. You see some of the same. It's based on the same example material, and so all of this is of course also included in the main manual, and the main manual is behind the help file here as well, and you will be sent some handouts and the PowerPoint that we have, that I've been using here by the training center. Any other question? Any hands you want to raise and ask me directly? Yes, Susanne is just thanking me for the handouts and printed stuff that the training center will send out. That's done by, I guess, by Eve or Ricardo. They handle all the administrative stuff. They will also send you in evaluation form, so feel free to provide constructive feedback, things you liked, you didn't like so much about the session, things you wanted to have been informed more extensively or shorter. Yeah, we're always constantly improving the content of our webinar, so please feel free to send your feedback. So if I don't see any more questions coming, then let me say goodbye and wish you, I always have to say good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you're from, you joined this webinar. It's evening my time, and maybe we meet each other at some other webinar session. I say goodbye.